Hello, Susie. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello, thank you.
You're here to tell us about your new book, The Lost Wisdom of the Magi. What is it about?
It is the memoirs of a zealot, of someone who was a partisan in the first Jewish revolt against Rome in the 1st century, and the story of her childhood and her experiences during the war.
Can you tell us what made you write about it?
I became very interested in kind of the Bible and Jewish and Christian studies. In particular, I'm very interested in early Christianity, and I became very passionate about at college in the quest for the historical Jesus. And I really believe that any understanding of Jesus historically has to be based in understanding of the Jewish Revolt.
So the book is based on a lot of your experiences and your beliefs. Is it mostly, would you say, make-believe, or is it based on your life experiences?
I think my life experiences have found their way into the book, in the sense that whenever I experienced something that I felt something about, or whenever I wanted to express a belief, I kind of used that as inspiration and put that into the story somehow. Of course, I'm talking about the 1st century, and I myself don't live in the 1st century, so it's not exactly about my life experiences, but I use them as inspiration. You know, for example, one example of that would be my character Sophia's mental illness. Her experiences with her mental illness, I would say, are very parallel to my own personal experiences. But the way she expresses it is, of course, completely different. I understand it in physiological terms, where she understood it in terms of having a demon.
Right, yes, sure. Can you tell me, the book took you about 10 years to write?
10 years, on and off, yeah.
Could you tell us more about that? So were you constantly changing it throughout the 10 years, adding your own bits in, adding different experiences as you experienced whatever you experienced?
Absolutely. And certainly, as long as the book was ongoing, I continued to research. So really, for the past 10 years of my life, I've done nothing but research Judaic studies and, history of that period, and particularly magic. I've done a lot of research on the magic. But now that it's finished, I find that I'm not doing that anymore, and I'm researching other things now.
So Susie, the book addresses the Jewish Revolt.
Mm-hmm.
You were very passionate about that. Tell me, where did that come from, and what made you write about it?
The original the incident which sparked this book was when a friend of mine visited me in my hometown, Nashville, Tennessee, and we were listening to the radio, and someone in the radio was talking about how they wrote Christian romance novels. And we were going, oh, what's a Christian romance novel? He said, oh, well, basically the formula is bang, bang, kiss, kiss, hallelujah. And so my friend and I said, oh, yeah, well, we could write a revolutionary historical romance. And the formula would be bang, bang, kiss, kiss, revolution. And so it was really at that point when I decided to use the Jewish Revolt as my background.
And how do you think it's gone? Do you think it's gone pretty well?
Yes, I do. I think I can safely say that I probably know more about the Jewish Revolt than anybody else.
Well, Susie, that sounds like it's really going to be a very interesting and intriguing read. But can you tell me, the book is also addressing current issues in our world at the moment: discrimination, racism. That is something you feel very strongly about. How did you incorporate that into the book?
I'm a political activist, and I'm particularly very up in arms about racism. Coming from the South in America, as I do, I saw racism as probably the biggest problem in society, and still think so. And I think my feelings about that sort of came out in the book. But of course, it's based in the 1st century, and I'm talking about the events of the 1st century. I'm not talking about any modern events. However, in terms of my character, how she felt about things is quite parallel to how I feel about things.
So your earlier life experiences are also put into the book, put into your story?
Obliquely, I would say.
So would you say you poured your heart out into this book?
Absolutely.
Could you tell us, Susie, how fictional are the characters? Are they totally made up, or are they based on people you've met along the way in your life, or people who are present at the moment in your life?
Other than her life story, which of course is fictional and is completely made up, the personality and the thinking and the feelings of Sophia, the narrator, is me. Very much so. And I would say that I've put pieces of, people that I know into certain characters. Sophia's younger disciple, Emma, was inspired by my feelings about my young cousin Frank, and her master, Emma Miriam, was inspired by my mother.
Okay, so there's a lot of history in this book as well, your own personal history with people you know and family members.
True, but I also used characters who existed who really existed in history.
Susie, you mentioned this character, Sophia. You said she is portraying you, or she's very similar to your character. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Okay, she's a Babylonian Jew. She comes from Seleucia on the Tigris, and she runs away from home after an upsetting family incident, and crosses the desert with a Nabatean incense caravan, and she joins the Essenes, and then comes up to Jerusalem to participate in the revolt. So it kind of takes place over a 4 or 5 year period.
Okay, and Susie, what about your own life experiences? How are they reflected in your writing and in this book?
I think really obliquely. I think it's sort of like, for example, when she first gets married, some of my feelings about when I experienced that, went into her character. But really everything about her life story was invented. But her feelings about those events probably echo my feelings about events in my life.
Now, your book, The Lost Wisdom of the Magi, it's a very unique title. It sounds really mystical. What made you think of that title?
As a child, she's very introverted, and she spends her days with her father, who's an archivist at the Royal Archives of the Parthians. So she grows up studying ancient languages and magic. She's very attracted to the secret magical recipes in cuneiform tablets, and she starts learning all about that kind of in secret. And then when she joins the Essenes, she learns how to be a shapeshifter.
Ah, okay. So the lost wisdom of the Magi. What does it mean to you? What does it mean?
She's very, very concerned with the fact that, with the idea that humanity lost a great proportion of ancient wisdom, and that we've lost it. It's been buried or lost, and we can't recover it. You probably know that the Library of Alexandria was burned by the Romans under Julius Caesar, and 90% of the books that had been written up until that point were destroyed in the fire, and nobody has copies of it. Copies of Socrates, Pythagoras, etc. Just we don't have them anymore. And that's sort of the mathematical and science knowledge, but she is very concerned with the magical knowledge.
What parts of your book are historical and what parts are invented?
A lot of her childhood is invented, largely because we don't know a lot about the ancient societies, which is really what fascinates me about ancient history. Because we don't know a lot, the things that we do know is like finding buried treasure. So that's why it excites me so much. So a lot of her childhood, the stuff about her childhood is invented. The stuff about the magic is based on research. You will find in there exact instructions on how to shapeshift into a fox. and exact instructions on how to, how to cast a necromantic spell using the head of John the Baptist and things like that. This is all based on research. Everything about the war is historical and is based on research. There does exist a lot of research on the Essenes and Qumran, which most scholars nowadays believe was occupied by the Essenes during the Jewish Revolt. I, however, have not followed a lot of that because it wasn't kind of fitting into my plot trajectory. So a lot of the stuff about the Essenes and about Qumran wasn't invented.
Can you tell me what part of your book would readers enjoy the most?
One thing I really tried to do is to kind of bring the period to life, because it's a period that we don't know a lot about. We don't know a lot about how people lived there. In fact, in coming up with in designing the cover, which was done by Charlotte Mounsey, which I think is just beautiful, there was a question of how is she going to be dressed, because we don't really know how they dressed back then. There's no paintings. Nobody wrote about it. We just don't know.
So how did you get around that then? If there was nothing written about it, no diagrams, no pictures, no scriptures, how did you get around thinking, hang on, they'll dress like this or they'll dress like that? Was it just use of the imagination or research and imagination put together?
Charlotte Mounsey came up with the illustration, but I did give her notes on it. And the notes that I gave her are based on a painting from Europus. There's a painting in a 2nd century, I think it is, synagogue in Europus. And this is, as far as I know, the only painting of, what Jewish women were wearing back then.
Okay, so there is some research. There's research and imagination mixed together.
Yes, absolutely.
I know you've already answered this, but I just want to ask you again, because I know it's mentioned quite heavily in the book. You talk about the Jewish Revolt. What will readers learn about that after reading your book that they didn't know before?
I think it's important to know that all three of the world's major monotheistic religions, Christianity, Judaism as it has existed since the Jewish Revolt, and later Islam, all came out of this experience. They all came out of the defeat of this revolt. Readers will learn what it felt like and what people felt about the time, and I think they will learn how important it was to history that this revolt failed.
What is it going to do for people? How is it going to impact them after reading your book?
I have been told by people that the writing is quite beautiful. So I'm hoping that other readers will agree, and please tell me if you do. I think that people are going to find that there's a little kind of adrenaline rush of discovering little bits of detail about ancient times and detail about the period. And will feel that I've really brought the period to life, and people can feel themselves really immersed in that world, which is was so long ago and so different from the world we have now. I think that people will also find that kind of, discovering of treasures of the little bits of Christian lore, Christian and Jewish lore that I've kind of worked into the plot. And we'll enjoy discovering little stories about real people in history that are in there. I also think that people will identify with the main character, Sophia, as she is someone who struggles with her own personal flaws, but feels very passionately about people and about changing the world and making the world a better place.
When is the lost wisdom of the Magi hitting our shelves?
It was officially launched in December, and it's now available from Amazon, from the Conrad Press, from various bookstores, Waterstones, all good books near me. I'm just hoping that more readers will discover the lost wisdom of the Magi, and will find it to be quite unique as a novel, and will really just love immersing themselves in the world of the first century, and will really, really enjoy all the little tidbits of Christian and Jewish lore that I've worked into the story, and will really love the inventive bits about magic and stuff.
Well, Susie, thank you for joining us today.
Okay, thank you very much.
I wish you all the best with your book. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.